Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 68 based on novel. So let's start. Another year passed. In that time, Wang Lin had made 8 wood carvings. These 8 wood carvings were exactly the same, they were all carvings of the old man with the passing of time domain. Along with the one he had made many years ago, he now owned a total of 9. Red veins were coursing through these wood carvings, but none of them ever touched each other. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. If he activates these 9 wood carvings, he should be able to activate the power of the passing of time domain, but it would be a slightly weaker than the old man's. He put away the wood carvings, took deep breath, and began to cultivate as he waited for the day the celestial gate opens. Time slowly passed and several years went by. Outside the cave, the seasons passed, and one day, the originally clear day was filled with colorful rays of light. Many oppressive illusions appeared in these rays of light. There was man or woman appearing in these illusions, but they wore very different clothes than those worn in Suzaku. Some were talking, some were laughing, some were using techniques, and some were flying through mountains. There were some never-before-seen beasts that would appear and disappear. Sometimes, even the legendary dragon and phoenix would appear. The same scene appeared in many locations across Suzaku. There was a cultivator with a rain cauldron in the places where this scene appeared. At this moment, in a rank 4 country in the southeastern part of Suzaku, a giant of the giant demon sect held a rain cauldron in his hand. He had a face that looked ancient. His body slowly rose, and as he floated up, his body slowly turned into that of an ordinary person's. Below him, the elders of the giant demon sect all had a very serious expressions. All of you, rest assured, with the sect's treasure, I'll definitely obtain a lot of celestial spiritual energy. This person's voice was filled with confidence. At the northeastern end of Suzaku, in a mountain, a young man wearing beast skin was looking up at the sky. He too held a rain cauldron in his hand. He let out an evil smile, then floated into the sky. Below him, a black mass suddenly appeared. It released a loud hum. If one looked closely, they would see that this black mass was composed of small bugs that were only about the size of a thumbnail. At the southwestern part of Suzaku, a middle-aged man stood on a tower looking at the sky with a melancholy expression and said, "Ting-er, the celestial gate has opened again. I'll definitely get you more celestial jades so that your body will be preserved for another 1,000 years. With that, his body floated into the air. His giant hand reached out below him and grabbed at the tower. The giant tower floated up and shrank until it was in his hand, then he walked into the illusion. At the northwestern part of Suzaku, in the headquarters of the corpse sect, an old man with white hair floated into the sky. He let out a sigh and said, "What kind of difficult task is this? How could the corpse of a celestial be easy to get? This body of mine is going to be put to work." At the center of Suzaku was a place that was surrounded by the sea. This entire continent belonged to the only rank 6 cultivation country on the planet, Suzaku. At this moment in Suzaku, on a large altar in the center of the country, sat a snow fairy-like woman. She looked up into the sky. Behind her followed 7 old people. "After I leave, the 7 of you quickly return to Shuiyu." This woman's voice was calm, and after saying that, her body slowly floated into the air. At this moment, Wang Lin, who was inside the cave, opened his eyes for the first time in several years and muttered, "The celestial gate has finally opened." His body disappeared from the cave. When it reappeared, he was in the air. There was now something extra in his hand. It was the rain cauldron. The moment the rain cauldron appeared, it started to shine brightly, then it melted and became a sliver of celestial spiritual energy, which then carried Wang Lin toward the illusion. The celestial realm was broken and the ancient celestials were dead. The entire celestial realm was broken into pieces in the catastrophe that happened a long time ago. The wind, rain, thunder, and lightning celestial realms each covered 4 different star systems, so whenever a celestial realm opens, cultivators from various planets will go inside it. However, the celestial realms had broken into many pieces, so there wasn't a high chance for them all to land on the same piece. Right now, in a rank 2 cultivation country, a messer-looking old man was eating a chicken leg while chuckling. "It has opened. If you properly use the straw hat that this old man gave you, you can preserve your life. You might die there if you don't." Wang Lin was surrounded by the sliver of celestial spiritual energy as he floated higher and higher up. The country below him became smaller and smaller and he got the same feeling as when he first experienced searching for his domain. However, it wasn't just his divine sense but his entire body this time. Eventually, he saw the ground below him and the sea around the ground. Everything became smaller and smaller until he felt a thick layer of clouds above his head. This layer of clouds contained limitless power, and the pressure it gave felt like it could crush anything in the world. However, as the pressure bore down on Wang Lin, the energy around him glowed and a hole opened up in the clouds for Wang Lin to pass through. As he passed through the clouds, he felt a sense of danger. The passage was very small and it felt like he could easily touch the clouds if he stretched his legs. However, he knew that the moment he touches the clouds, the power inside the clouds would enter him and destroy him. This was the power of the heavens. Wang Lin took a deep breath and his eyes lit up. He wondered what would happen if his main body was here. Would his main body, which had gone through 2 ancient god transformations, be able to withstand this pressure? This was a question that will remain without an answer unless he tests it out with his main body. Soon, under the guidance of the power of the celestial energy, he left the clouds. After he left, he finally relaxed a bit, but his heart began to pound. What he saw was the real outer space. He had seen space many times through the ancient gods' memories and when he was searching for his domain, but this was the first time he had experienced it in person. This feeling was very different from before. The vast space and the bright stars gave Wang Lin the feeling that he could go anywhere he wished. He lowered his head and saw that Suzaku was now a large sphere, but as he went higher, it became smaller and smaller. So it's like this. Wang Lin seemed to realize something. Just at this moment, 5 pillars of light flew out from Suzaku. 3 of them were also looking at the planet as if they had realized something. Wang Lin felt the celestial energy around him moving him closer to the other 5 people until they formed a hexagon. The distance between them wasn't large, but it couldn't be considered small either. Wang Lin was able to immediately see that the only woman among the 5 was the genius of Shui Yu, who had managed to reach the late stage of soul formation in only 100 years, Red Butterfly. His expression was calm as his gaze calmly swept past them. It was within his calculations that Red Butterfly would appear, and she had never seen his true appearance before. As for the other 4, one of them looked very powerful. He was not wearing a shirt, revealing his shocking muscles. He almost didn't look like a cultivator, he was more like a mortal martial artist. However, between this person's eyebrows was the shape of an axe that appeared and disappeared. After seeing this axe, Wang Lin was able to confirm that this person must be from the giant demon clan and that his position in the clan must be pretty high as well. Another person looked like a youth, but his eyes revealed bloodlust and ruthlessness. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze after one look. This person's aura felt similar to his main body's but slightly weaker. If his main body was here, he would be able to pressure this person with killing intent alone. What caused Wang Lin's pupils to shrink were the last 2, especially the white-haired old man. This person's eyes were closed. He had a hand behind his back and showed no expression on his face. However, this person gave off this carefree feeling. It was like he was taking a stroll in his own backyard right now. This person suddenly opened his eyes as Wang Lin looked at him and faintly smiled at Wang Lin. Wang Lin looked at this person for a while before moving his gaze to the last person. This person looked middle-aged. He had a gourd in his hand and he occasionally drank from it. His eyes were devoid of everything. It was like nothing could bother him. He didn't show any reaction when Wang Lin looked at him. Wang Lin took a deep breath. Every one of these 5 people were powerful. As Wang Lin observed the 5 of them, the other 4, besides the middle-aged man that was drinking, also looked at each other. However, no one talked the entire time. Wang Lin suddenly realized that he had unknowingly become an expert on Suzaku. The fact that he was able to leave the planet and go to the celestial realm proved this. Aside from the old man and the middle-aged man, the other 3 didn't underestimate him at all. They were actually on guard against him. Wang Lin let out a faint smile. At this moment, he felt very proud. Who would have thought that the little boy from the mountain village would be able to get this far? Recalling the past, Wang Lin could say that every step he took contained a life-and-death situation. The 6 pillars of light connected and formed a hexagon before quickly flying into the distance. Soon, a giant, golden door appeared before Wang Lin. This door was simply too big to describe. When people stood next to it, they looked like ants. There was a giant word carved onto the gate. According to ancient God 2-size memories, it was the word for rain. This was the rain celestial realm gate. However, there was a handprint on this door, and it was surrounded by cracks. There were countless broken platforms below the gate. There were already several people there, and almost all of them were on their own platform. After the 6 of them arrived, the lights surrounding them disappeared and threw them forward. Wang Lin moved back a bit and landed on a platform 100 feet wide. As for the other 5, each one of them also chose a platform to stand on. He looked around and his heart couldn't help but skip a beat as he noticed that all of the different-sized platforms had the same texture. If he carefully looked at the edges of some of them, they would fit perfectly together. As a result, Wang Lin guessed that countless years ago, before the celestial realm collapsed, there was a very large platform here. After seeing the hand print on the gate, he couldn't help but wonder how much power must have been in that technique to leave a print on the celestial gate. The sliver of pride Wang Lin had just gained disappeared after he looked at the gate. Compared to these mysterious presences, he was still struggling at the bottom. After a while, several more people appeared and landed on various platforms. There was a wide range of cultivation levels among the cultivators, with even nascent soul cultivators showing up. This confused Wang Lin greatly. Gradually, as more and more people arrived, there weren't enough platforms. One of the black-clothed youths looked around and found that no more platforms were open, so he landed on one next to an old woman. This platform was about 300 feet wide. Not to mention 2 people, it had enough room to fit 20 people. But the moment the youth landed on the platform, the old woman's eyes lit up, and she said, with a raspy voice, "Scram." The youth's face became cold. He was about to speak, but the old woman frowned. Her hand reached out and grabbed at him. Suddenly the young man screamed. He quickly backed up and barely dodged the danger. His expression was very ugly as he looked at the old woman, turned around, and landed on another platform nearby. On that platform sat a middle-aged man. He was one of the people that came with Wang Lin. He was just sitting there, drinking by himself, and didn't seem to care that there was an extra person on the platform. The black-clothed young man pondered a bit before sitting down on the edge of the platform. His eyes lit up and he would occasionally look at the old woman. Not long after, another person arrived. This person's face was gloomy. He was at the early stage of soul formation. After he arrived, he noticed that all of the platforms were taken and immediately flew to the side. No one knew if it was intentional or not, but as luck would have it, he flew toward where the 6 people from Suzaku were at. His body appeared on the platform that the man from the giant demon clan was on and coldly said, "Move out of the way." The man from the giant demon clan looked at him with a dismissive look, then his body suddenly swelled up and he became a giant. He stood up, looked down at the terrified person, and said, "There is no room." As he spoke, the axe imprint on his forehead rapidly flashed. The person looked at the man from the giant demon clan with dread as he muttered, "Giant demon clan." His body slowly moved away from the platform. The next moment, he appeared on the platform that the genius of Shui Yi, Red Butterfly, was on. The man from the giant demon clan looked over with interest. This person landed on Red Butterfly's platform, looked at her, clasped his hands, and left. He noticed that this Red Butterfly was at the late stage of soul formation. She was not someone he could mess with. Thus, he floated in the air and his gaze swept past everyone around. He gave up on the white-haired old man after one look, and as for the middle-aged man, he gave up too because there was already another person on the platform. Finally, he picked the 2 platforms with Wang Lin and the young man whose eyes were filled with bloodlust. He gave up on the young man because he didn't look like someone who was willing to give up easily. This could lead to a big battle and that was not the result he wanted. And Wang Lin looked like a weak scholar who seemed easier to bully. This person's eyes lit up and he arrived at Wang Lin's platform. At this moment, even the middle-aged man who was drinking raised his head and looked over. The man from the giant demon sect also looked over. The interest in his eyes deepened. Red Butterfly kept feeling like she knew this scholar-looking person but couldn't seem to recall anything. Even she looked over to try to see if she could see through something by looking at his techniques. The young man filled with bloodlust and the white-haired old man also looked over. After all, Wang Lin also came from Suzaku like them. The person stood on the platform Wang Lin was on and coldly said, "Fellow cultivator, please leave this platform and find another one." Although his voice was cold, after consecutive setbacks, his arrogance had lowered a lot. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he looked at the person and didn't say a word. He waved his hand and a bracelet popped off his hand and transformed into a large toad. The moment this toad appeared, the person's expression changed as he exclaimed, "Thunder Toad." This Thunder Toad was only one of Wang Lin's treasures, so he wasn't afraid of exposing it. The stuff he had in his bag of holding were his real aces, so he didn't mind using this Thunder Toad to intimidate people. If people were to fight Wang Lin in the future and prepare for his Thunder Toad, then they wouldn't be prepared for his real killer moves. Moreover, it was obvious that power was everything here. If he didn't give a good display of power, then there would be countless more troubles in the future. This was also why Wang Lin decided to bring out this toad. The moment the thunder toad appeared, its stomach swelled up and it shot out a ball of lightning. The person quickly backed up as his hand formed seals and a yin and yang wheel appeared. The wheel smashed into the ball of lightning. The person coughed out a mouthful of blood, but the yin and yang wheel was able to cause the ball of lightning to shrink a great deal and bounced it back. The thunder toad opened its mouth and swallowed the ball of lightning, then looked at the person with caution. Wang Lin secretly sighed. He knew that every soul formation cultivator had their own methods, especially ones that could come here. That yin and yang wheel had a powerful neutralizing effect to neutralize a great deal of the ball of lightning. It has to be said that the thunder toad was at the level of a soul formation cultivator. Although still a bit away from late-stage soul formation cultivators, it had at least the power of a mid-stage soul formation cultivator. Although its ball of lightning lacked a domain, its power was up there. That person flew out very far. He looked at the thunder toad with dread and couldn't help but let out a bitter smile. He clasped his hands at Wang Lin and no longer tried to find a platform. He then sat down cross-legged in the air. Wang Lin was every surprised at how willing this person was to let it go, but he wasn't sure if this was real or an act. The genius from Shueyu's eyes focused on the thunder toad for a bit before withdrawing her gaze. As for the man from the giant demon clan, his eyes were filled with the urge to fight as he nodded at Wang Lin. It seemed he acknowledged Wang Lin's power. As for the old man, he rolled his eyes and withdrew his gaze. Only the young man with bloodlust in his eyes looked at the toad with a hint of dread. His entire cultivation method was based on insects, so he was very weary of a creature that could spit out lightning, especially a toad. The middle-aged man let out a sigh and said, "Thunder toad. I saw a thunder toad again. Sadly, it is not the same person from back then." Wang Lin waved his right hand and the thunder toad turned back into the beast trap. Everyone who saw this became silent, but all of them would occasionally look at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze remained calm as he waved his hand and a gourd appeared. He took a gulp before lowering his head and began to think. Not long after, a burst of noise came from the celestial gate. The noise was small at first but soon was enough to match a thunderstorm. As the rumbling continued, the celestial gate slowly opened. Waves of golden light came out of the gate and lit up the entire area. After a while, the celestial gate opened completely. All of the surrounding cultivators stood up and flew inside without a word. They all disappeared inside the celestial gate. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, but he didn't immediately go in. Only after waiting for the 5 from Suzaku to go in did he casually enter as well. The moment he passed through the door, he felt a powerful aura coming from the celestial realm. This aura had no killing intent and just flew past everyone who entered. Gradually, the celestial gate closed. At the same time, a small jade cauldron appeared before Wang Lin. He took a deep breath, grabbed the jade cauldron, and put it into his bag of holding. Before he came here, he did some research about the celestial realm. He knew that this was a return cauldron. At certain locations, he could spend 1 hour activating it and it would allow him to return to the cultivation planet he came from. After putting it away, Wang Lin saw numerous swirls. There were cultivators entering them and disappearing. Wang Lin's body moved and he charged into a swirl. He gradually disappeared inside it. There was blinding light shining into his eyes and he felt like he was falling from the sky. However, he forced his eyes to stay open and saw something that he will never forget. Below him were pieces of golden fragments scattered around like a mirror that had fallen on the ground and shattered. The celestial realm was like a shattered mirror. Now that all of the celestial spiritual energy had disappeared from the celestial realm, only a small amount of it remained in each fragment of the celestial realm. As Wang Lin's body rapidly descended, the pieces got larger and larger. Soon, Wang Lin was able to detect that he had landed on a fragment near the edge. The moment he landed, he quickly slapped his bag of holding and a brass bell appeared in his hand. This was one of the 3 treasures from the ancient cultivators that he was able to refine. This treasure had the ability to change its size to trap the enemy. After landing, Wang Lin looked around and was shocked. The ground contained no signs of life. There was only dead grass. The mountain in the distance had its peak cut in half. The cut was very smooth, so it was clear that it was cut by someone. Below the mountain were some palaces, but they had all been turned to rubble. The other half of the peak had fallen on top of the palaces. From a distance, they looked like one big mountain linked to a smaller mountain. On the ground there were many bottomless pits. Some of them even spat out white gas that slowly floated into the air. This was a dead world. Wang Lin pondered for a while and muttered, This is the Celestial Realm. Despite knowing the fact that the Celestial Realm had been destroyed, even when he was standing here, Wang Lin still couldn't believe it. In ancient times, when one reached the soul formation stage, they would hear the call of the Celestial Realm. To cultivators, the Celestial Realm was a holy place. A sacred place that shouldn't be violated. But now Wang Lin looked at his surroundings and couldn't help but become silent. After a while, he looked at the palaces in the distance and moved toward that direction. Although it didn't look far, after flying for a while, Wang Lin noticed a force coming from the sky. This force made it very hard to reach a certain speed while flying. Wang Lin arrived at the palace after a long time. He was shaken from seeing the ruins up close. From looking at the ruins, Wang Lin could see just how rich the Celestial Realm was. The only material used to build these palaces were spirit stones. Although Wang Lin had seen buildings made of pure spirit stones back in Chu, where Li Muwen lived, compared to this, the difference was too great. Wang Lin couldn't see the end of the palace in the distance. Just from looking at the ruins, one could see how amazing this place was before it was destroyed. However, after all these years had passed, all of these spirit stones had lost their energy. In fact, many of them would turn to dust the moment they were touched. Wang Lin let out a sigh. So this the Celestial Realm. While walking through the ruins, Wang Lin couldn't help but begin to ponder. This area didn't have any of the celestial energy he was looking for. There was only sadness. In the center of the palace, Wang Lin stopped and was terrified at the scene before him. The area was completely caved inwards. After looking carefully at it, he could see that it was a handprint. Wang Lin was stunned. The moment he saw the handprint, he thought of the handprint on the Celestial Gate. The power of one handprint was able to destroy such a wide area. Wang Lin believed that he could do it back on Suzaku too, but this was the Celestial Realm. Everything in the Celestial Realm was much tougher than things outside, and this place was filled with cultivators at the soul formation stage or above who had been cultivating celestial spiritual energy. If all of this was factored in, then this handprint was very scary. Wang Lin crouched down next to the handprint and touched it with his hand. Suddenly, a powerful death aura came out and entered Wang Lin's body through his arm. Wang Lin's life and death domain suddenly activated. After a long time, he took a deep breath. The terror in his eyes became even stronger. He just felt that the handprint still had remnants of the user's aura left, so he experienced it after touching it. However, the more he felt, the more he realized just how powerful the user was. After standing up, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He flew into the air and pressed his hand down at the same area. After a long time, he shook his head, moved around the handprint, and continued to walk around in the ruins. After walking through the ruins for several days, he found a broken stone tablet with some words carved onto it. Gifted by the 5th Reign Celestial Emperor to Celestial Scholar Tianhua, the tablet roughly said that Celestial Scholar Tianhua had accomplished a great deed, so the Celestial Emperor made these palaces for him as a reward. The palaces were built in the form of a formation that would attract celestial spiritual energy from 100,000 kilometers, making cultivation several times more effective. After he finished reading, Wang Lin couldn't help but feel shaken again. Although he didn't know what rank a celestial scholar was, it certainly was below the Celestial Emperor. If a mere celestial scholar could have a palace like this, then what would the palace of the Celestial Emperor be like? Just as he was about to leave, his eyes lit up. He suddenly turned around and stared at the stone tablet. The stone tablet looked very normal. It didn't have anything extraordinary about it. But Wang Lin's gaze swept past each word. Why did Celestial Scholar Tianhua want to have his palace built here? Also, this tablet was a decree, which should be placed on the outside for everyone to see, so why was it here? This area belonged to the inner part of the palace. For this stone tablet to be here, it seemed kind of fishy. Wang Lin frowned as he raised his hand and pointed at the stone tablet. A beam of qi shot out and landed on the stone tablet. Suddenly, the cracks on the tablet became even larger. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and a flying sword came out. Under his command, the sword hit the stone tablet. Sounds of metal colliding could be heard. Although it had been damaged by the power of that handprint, the stone tablet was still very tough. After a long time, the stone tablet was finally cut off from its base by the flying sword. Wang Lin looked at the base of the tablet but couldn't find anything abnormal. However, he still felt like there was something off about this stone tablet. His eyes lit up as he grabbed the stone tablet and pulled. The area rumbled as the stone tablet was slowly dragged up by Wang Lin. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.